Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Used Gun Review. In these videos, we take a sample of many different firearms and do a 2 to 3 minute long review of each to give you guys a good overview of a bunch of different things that are out there on the market. Remember, the point of this video is not to sell you anything. This is purely educational. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Let's jump into this. Remember, the format of this video is we start with the most common and then move through the more unique items that you are less likely to see when you go into your dealer's gun store. Anyway, starting it off, we have the very popular Glock Model 17. Now this one is a Generation 3. It comes in its original box with 2 mags. One of them is a standard capacity 17 round magazine. One of them is the compliant state 10 round mag, which you're going to see in places like I don't know, California, Connecticut, places that have a magazine capacity limit. So this may have been purchased there. Previous owner moved into a free state, if you will, purchased a 17 round mag. There you go. In the state of Indiana, we do not have magazine requirements or limits on that. Some upgrades on this that you might consider for yours is an extended magazine release and an extended slide release, as well as night sights. Now, if you are in your local gun store and you see a used firearm advertised with night sights, especially if the price is higher, reflecting those night sights, make sure you ask to take a look if you can see in maybe a bathroom or something that they might have the quality of the sights in terms of the life left in them. So most night sights do have about an 8 to 10 year lifespan on them. As time goes on, they do dim out. These are pretty dim. They've got maybe about 15 to 20% of their life left in them, so a little bit dim. And keep in mind, when those do completely dim out, they're basically no better than a 3-dot sight configuration. You are going to have to replace them, and night sights can be about $80 to $150 depending on what you get, so just keep that in mind. The Glock 17, sort of the flagship Glock pistol, 9mm full size. You go to the compactor in the 19, you go to the subcompactor in the 26. The micro carries would be like the 43, the 43X, the 48. So really the flagship gun from the 9mm lineup. The 22s, which are the 40 caliber version of this, probably the most commonly used police sidearm until 40s started going the wayside. Anyway, so really good firearm. Now the 3rd generation is my personal favorite. I have a Generation 3 Glock 17. That is what I open carry when I'm in my store. They had the standard that they call the gas nitride finish. They went to basically on the Generation 2 it was more of a tinifer finish, and then on the Gen 5s they're now on the NDLC coating. Trigger, very standard, of course. They didn't change much on that until the Generation 5. On the new generations, the Generation 5, they got rid of the finger grooves. They flared out the mag well. So in my opinion, this was the best design culmination. Some would argue that the Gen 5 is better now. They did make some updates there. Single guide rod and spring system, which they would go to a double guide rod and spring in the Gen 4. Anyway, I'm a big fan of this handgun in this exact configuration, Generation 3 Glock 17. Really cool firearms. If you ever see them, pick one up. You should be able to find, the Gen 3s are actually going up in price lately. You can typically find them used in the box in this condition, probably around the $400 mark is most common. Of course, new, these things are about $550. So anyway, really cool firearms. Love to see Glock 17s or any 9mm Glock for that matter when they come in. Okay, up next is another more recent Glock. This is the Glock 19X, and these have been very popular. Now, what the concept here on the 19X was, they come with the 1 17 round mag and then 2 19 round mags, interchangeable back straps. It was a design change that they made when they went to the Gen 4. The Gen 5 keeps a carryover on that as well. The Gen 3 you just saw, they did not have back strap. For me, the normal size of a grip frame fits my hand well, so these were always sort of a non-issue to me. And most of the time when we see these used Glocks come in, these have typically never been used, or they don't look to have been used or removed from the little bracket here. But anyway, moving right along. I've done a couple review videos of the 19X in comparison to other things, SIG products mostly. What the 19X was Glock's submission for the XM17 handgun trial that SIG did win with the P320, now the M17. Design features are basically a hybrid of a 17 that you just saw in a 19. So you take a 17 frame and a 19 slide. So the 17 to 19 round capacity on the grip with a full length grip handle. Great if you have big or small hands, doesn't matter. No finger grooves, which is a Gen 5 feature. They do have the NDLC. It's a This was actually one of the first colors that Glock ever actually did in-house, was this sort of the Coyote Tan, which I guess was a spec requirement for the XM17 program. 3-dot configuration night sights. They are metal, not the typical Glock polymer U-dots. These would have had a lanyard loop. I guess the previous owner got rid of the base plate there, or maybe they're making them now without it. Little finger grip right up here. The Gen 5s began with a cutout at the front, and now they're just smooth with a flared magwell, so this does not have those Gen 5 features. Single pin trigger pin here, which is again a Gen 5 feature. Ambidextrous control is again a Gen 5 feature. These have been very popular, brand new. You're looking at about the $600 mark, maybe $580 to $600. Used, they do keep their value. They are going used for about $5 and maybe a little bit higher. Especially now they are a little bit tough to get. The Glock Model 45 did come out, which is a full Generation 5 idea on this concept, 17 frame, 19 slide, all black with all Gen 5 features. Again, this is missing some of the Gen 5 features. There have been rumors that the 19X, because the 45 is out, the 19X is ceasing production. I don't know if those rumors are true or not. I did check with my distributors' websites. They do still have these listed in the Glock catalog, but of course none available in stock. But right now there are really no Glocks available in stock anywhere just because of the times. But anyway, just a really, really cool firearm. I am a fan of Glock, as many of you guys know who watch the channel, and this is definitely one that's always interested me. I've never picked one up, you know, always just, it's a cool firearm. If I was going to get this or a 45, I'd probably go with this just because I do like the sort of the military handgun trials aspect of it. I am a military firearms collector, so there is that. But anyway, really, really cool firearms. If you see one used or new, definitely worth taking a look at. Just kind of a cool, interesting concept. Okay, up next is another pretty uncommon one. This is a Noble Firearms Model 60A. For many of you who don't know, Noble Firearms was not around for a super long amount of time. They were incorporated in the 1940s and began manufacturing firearms in the early 1950s. Mainly known for 22s and shotguns. This is a Model 60A, which they made in 12 and 16 gauge with a 28-inch barrel. Their firearms are really known to be the common man's utility firearm. Really no frills or thrills about them, very inexpensive and affordable. Now, because of a lot of things on the market around the 50s and 60s, you know, from Remington and Winchester, especially in similar price points, it was really hard for them to get an edge in the market. Plus, they were not known for having very high quality parts, and some of their parts were difficult to find. Breakages are pretty common, so they did not garner a lot of favor, and the business did fizzle out and go out of business. So they really did not produce a whole lot of firearms. Even though these are not very common, there's of course really no collector's market on them. Typically in shotguns like this, you have a lot of value in more nostalgic things today from a lot of people who shot them when they were kids. This is just not the case on something like this, just because they were not out really enough to get any type of use or appeal. This is in really good condition, appears to be totally functional. Of course, we don't fire our used firearms, but in this condition, it's probably worth anywhere from about $100 to $150. So good utilitarian shotgun, something like this, if you find it. Again, not going to be too common to see, but if you pick it up, a good ancillary or backup, you know, waterfowl gun or trap gun for your buddy who's in town over the weekend and wants to go to the range with you. Just an interesting, basic pump shotgun. All right, now this one is actually a very common and well-known shotgun. This is a Winchester Model 12. The Model 12s have been one of the most sort of ubiquitous and most common, most collected shotguns on the market. It is a internal hammer-fired pump-action shotgun. They made these in a variety of different barrel lengths for many different purposes, whether it's for field, sporting, hunting, or defense. They also were very popularly and famously used in the military in the trench shotgun configuration. Those along with the Winchester Model 1897, Ithaca Model 37. They were converted and used for military purposes. The Model 12s were used in World War I, World War II, Korea, and in Vietnam. So if you find a Model 12 in a military configuration with the heat shield and everything on that, the bomb ordnance acceptance marks and stuff like that, Those do demand quite a premium. In their standard sporting configuration, they are a little less valuable, although people do definitely appreciate and still use the Model 12 today. Something like this in this configuration is probably going to be between about the $400 to $500. Now, this is a takedown model, which does add to a little bit of its desirability in terms of collectability and value there as well. But very, very nice pump action shotgun. There's really not much else to say about it. Lots of information out there on the Model 12s. Been produced for a very long time. Just a very good all-around shotgun to serve really many different roles and whatever you might need a shotgun for. If you see one of these in your gun dealer stores and you're looking for a good usable shotgun, which you should be able to find at a pretty reasonable price, definitely something I would recommend picking up. Okay, up next is not really necessarily a rare rifle, but it is something I don't see that come through the door used too often. This is a Ruger 1022. See if I can find where the gun is here. Takedown model. And it's a pretty interesting concept. It's actually the same sort of takedown mechanism concept you're going to see on the PC carbine that just came out. So this would sort of be the precursor of the first variation that came out like this. They have a Charger version like this as well. Basically, you're just going to line up the, let's see if I do this right, there we go, a barrel right there into the receiver, and then you just twist and it's going to self-lock. Now, of course, you have to have the bolt in the rearward and locked position to do that. To take it down, there is a latch right down here. You push and then twist and break it apart again. So really cool. If you take the 1022, which is a very popular semi-automatic 22 rifle that's been produced by Ruger for over 50 years, a very popular rifle. You've seen several different variations of these on these videos. Taking it into an easily broken down platform so you could take it with you if you're hiking or you're going on an extended hunting trip or something like that. So it's way easier for you to stow away. You can either pack it away in this Ruger case or just put it in your backpack, you know, let it get banged up, scratched up, doesn't really matter. Really good truck survival gun too, easily stowable underneath a car seat or in a trunk. You could probably figure out a way to fit this into your spare tire well in the back of your SUV or anything like that. So just a cool concept rifle to have with you. To take with you. Now with the polymer stock configuration and the stainless finish, brand new, these are going to run you in about the $300 to $400 price point. So you are adding about $100 of value on top of a standard configuration 1022. On the used market, something like this, probably in about the $200 to $300 mark. So this does have a BX25 magazine somewhere, 25 rounder, there it is, it's in there. I'm not going to dig it out, you guys have seen that. Typically these come with a 10 round rotary mag, which is already inserted here. So there is the 10 round rotary magazine there, which is pretty standard with these rifles, but not much else to say about them. They are very, very good little rifles, and the takedown package is just a cool concept. And if you see one of these, whether in the takedown or not, definitely worth taking a look at, especially if the price is right. Definitely consider picking one up. Okay, up next is actually a pretty unique and pretty rare firearm. Now, at first glance, this looks like a Ruger Mark Series pistol, and that's actually exactly what it is. It is a standard model. Now, what makes this unique is this is what is known as to collectors as the Red Eagle standard. What that is a lot of the paint is kind of wearing off, but it had the Red Eagle emblem here in the grips. Later production would go to black. So for about the first 3 years of production, 49 through 51, you would have the Red Eagle. Now, this is a 5-digit serial number in the 12,000 block, which puts it at, I believe, 1950, either 50 or 51, so second or third year production, which makes this a very early handgun. Of course, you have your Eagle emblem on here, not on the other side. Other than that, it's a standard model. You have the tapered barrel, the metal follower on the magazine, metal base plate on the magazine. This one is in very good condition, but with no box. These, because it is an early Red Eagle model, to collectors are you know, bringing in a little bit more of a premium. Typically, you do find these between about $400 to $600, depending on condition and if it's got the original box. Unfortunately, no box on this one, but the condition is really good. I would say at about 92% or so. So very unique, very interesting, very rare firearm. First, it's actually the second standard model I've ever had, and the Red Eagle, I never had another one in here other than this one. So very uncommon, and also, you know, very cool to see something like this come in. Collectible firearms like this, there's always a buyer for them, especially if the price is right. So anyway, don't expect it to last too long. Really cool firearm. All right, ending it up, I do have a World War II era Mauser K98 rifle and 8mm Mauser. Now, a lot of you are going to look at this and say, hey, I've seen a lot of World War II movies, and the Germans were definitely not running around with anything that looked like that. That is very true. This, unfortunately, has been what is called to collectors as sporterized. It's basically, the concept goes is after World War II, these things were a dime a dozen. People would take them, you could pick them up out of a barrel at your hardware store for, $10 or $15. You could take them home, you could chop down the stocks, lighten it up, and turn it into a really nice hunting rifle, and that's exactly what had happened on this one. Now, unfortunately, other than that, every single serial number on this gun is matching, down to the firing pin. So, they basically took something that would have today been worth between about $2,000 and $3,000, and they turned it into a sporter rifle, which is probably worth somewhere between about $500 and $700. The reason value on this is it does have a older loop-holed scope on it, which does have some value to it. It does have a Timney trigger in it, and it is an all-matching action bolt and barrel. Other than the bolt having been turned down and polished, it's actually in pretty much original configuration, so somebody could actually take the action out of this stock and put it into a actual German K98 Mauser stock. Now, of course, you'd have to source some parts such as the front sight blade, the full stock assembly, the barrel bands, and that would be about it, and the rear sight base as well to get it back. Now, of course, those parts would have also been matching, so once you find those parts, put them all on the gun. Of course, it is not going to be a matching gun. Still a shooter collector grade, or a shooter grade, I'm sorry, original Mauser with mostly matching parts, especially the bolt. That's still going to run you at about the $600 to $1,000 mark, which in and of itself is getting pretty high on the value of those. But if you're looking for a nice Mauser action, which this is one of the most manufactured and copied actions on the market, probably the most, it is still a Mauser in 8mm, upgraded trigger, nice glass on it, so still a good viable hunting rifle for somebody. So whether you're a collector and want to rebuild it into a original wartime looking firearm, or keep it as a nice shooter or a hunting rifle with some of that World War II provenance attached to it, there's that for you. But we are seeing good condition sporters in the Mauser variety going for about anywhere between about $500 to $700. So anyway, there is that one for you. Well, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comment section for me. Anyway, guys, I will leave you off there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.